Hi guys! So I have something special to share with you guys tonight. A pork tenderloin recipe that was one of my first recipes that I ever made after I moved out of the house and had my own apartment. I mean, from day one, I've always loved entertaining and having friends over and cooking for them. And this dish seemed like it was super difficult and it was fancy, and all my guests were wowed, but it really only took 20 minutes and about 5 ingredients. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and through the years I have changed and substituted things. But I think originally I got this recipe from my Betty Crocker cookbook, which was my first cookbook out there. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. So tonight, what I'm doing different is I'm going to add in some fresh herbs from my garden, some sage, some rosemary, and the typical recipe I think calls for dried herbs, which you guys I'm sure all have in your pantry if you don't have the fresh. And then the original recipe also calls for apricot jam, which I don't have, but we had some kumquat marmalade, which we got a while back. And for those of you guys that don't know what kumquats are, I didn't either until I moved to California. They're these little bitty, orange, bittery oranges. And I don't like them not cooked. They're too bitter for me. But when you turn them into a marmalade, and you caramelize it with sugar, they're really, really good. So we're gonna use that instead of the apricots. So I'm excited to kind of share this with you because like I said, it's super simple. It's all things you can get from your pantry, and it's special because it was one of the first recipes that I made for my friends, and I can't wait to do that again at some point. So stick around. Okay, so I'm sitting down so you guys can see me, but I'm just gonna take a small bowl, and that's where all my ingredients are gonna go. But we're first gonna start with about 3 cloves of garlic. You can put more if you like more, but you want them to be finely chopped. And again, if you miss a few pieces, it's fine because it's just gonna be in the marinade. We're gonna scrape this off probably near the end anyway. So I got a little excited and I have a lot of garlic there, so I'm gonna push that to the side. The next ingredients are, I'm gonna take sage leaves. So I'm gonna take about 5. Mine were quite large. You don't want, sage is pretty strong, so is rosemary, so you don't want too much, but again, just enough to kind of seep through the pork. So we're going to finely chop that and just dump that into the bowl. And the same thing we're gonna do with the rosemary. So I took about 1.5 to 2 sprigs, depending on how big your sprigs are. Kind of tear them. The best way to take this off is to go opposite of the way they're growing and just rip them off. And they come off pretty nicely. And then those top bits you can just peel off as well. And then you're just gonna finally kind of chop that into bite-sized pieces. Again, if it's a little rough, it doesn't matter. It's just the marinade, and most of it's gonna come off anyway once you throw it in the oven or grill it tomorrow. Okay, then we're gonna take some thyme. So I'm probably gonna take about a teaspoon. I don't wanna go crazy again. Dried can be pretty strong, so I'm going to measure about a teaspoon of thyme. Here. All right, put that aside. And then I'm gonna take about, hold on. Okay, my teaspoon thing. So I'm gonna grab 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. And we can add a little more if we feel like it's not gonna cover the pork. So 3 tablespoons of that. I'm gonna take 3 tablespoons, we're gonna start with that, of olive oil. We're gonna mix that in. And then I'm gonna put that back here so you can see that. I'm going to take, and I wanna get a clean spoon, about 3 tablespoons of this kumquat marmalade. If you're using apricot, then you do the same thing. So any type of, if you use peaches, you can use apricots. I'm allergic to peaches, so I stay away from those, but for some reason apricots I'm not. And kumquats are part of the orange family, so I'm not allergic to those. And then I'm going to take some of this orange zest. So I have this little microplane. It's really easy. You just kind of take it along the orange like that. And we're just gonna do a little bit. You've already got a lot of the orange flavor with the kumquats. I'm gonna probably get a nice tablespoon worth. You wanna be careful to not get too much into the white part because the white part is quite bitter. And let me just keep doing that. All right, then I'm gonna take this orange, cut it in half, and I'm just going to squeeze, even if some seeds get in there, it's fine. Squeeze about half of that orange into the bowl. All right, now I'm gonna take a little bit of salt, so a pinch of salt. Maybe, be quite generous with the salt. I'd say if you were measuring, probably about a teaspoon, start with a teaspoon of sea salt, and then about a teaspoon of black crushed pepper. So, finish that. All right, I'm gonna start with that, and then let's just give it a mix here. And really what I'm going to do is I'm gonna marinate this, and then tomorrow, after we take it out, you can actually heat it up and kind of puree this to make like a sauce that you can put over the pork. So I'm gonna taste it first. I think it needs a little more sweetness. So I'm gonna take a little more of the kumquat. And what you can do if you want a little more sweetness is add a little bit of honey. Because the kumquats are a little chunky, these are. The apricot is usually a little creamier. So I'm gonna grab some honey, and I'm not gonna measure, I'm just gonna throw in, I like a little bit, probably about a teaspoon maybe. It can, again, depending on the type of jam that you're using, you probably don't need to do that. But anything that you add, any sweetness that the pork has on it will kind of caramelize and make like a nice crust on the grill or in the oven. So it's nice to have that sweetness along with the mustard. So there you go. So we're just gonna take that and we're going to put it in a baggie with the pork, throw it on, put it in the refrigerator and marinate overnight. And then tomorrow we'll take that out and we'll throw it on the grill. This was marinating, the pork was marinating overnight. So a good 24 hours plus all day. It's about 6 o'clock tonight. So it really should be nice and tender. It soaked up all the flavors from the herbs, the sweetness from the kumquat, marmalade, and that mustard. So it should be perfect. So we're gonna take this out and we're gonna put the marinade aside because we're gonna cook that separately for about 10 minutes, which I'll show you after this, and we'll pour that on top afterwards. But I'm gonna preheat my grill to medium high. I mean, everyone's grill is different. Ours is a little finicky, so we have to watch it. But we're gonna start it and we're gonna sear it really high heat. Then we're gonna turn it down, and it's gonna take about 25-30 minutes, again, depending on the size of your pork tenderloin. Ours is just a medium, normal size. So that's the first step. The second steps are gonna be really easy. I decided to keep it simple tonight. I'm taking out things I have in my pantry. I'm gonna pair it with some couscous. That'll take 5 minutes, literally. And then I had some organic sweet baby broccoli, which I'm gonna actually throw right on the grill with it. I'm gonna marinate it with some olive oil, a little salt and pepper, maybe a little garlic, and it will grill for probably quick 4 to 5 minutes on each side. You want it to kind of get charred. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to make the sauce. So I've poured the sauce into a separate bowl, and I'm just gonna pour it into a pan, and it's on low because I I don't want to scald it or burn it. We're just going to turn it down and just kind of cook it since I had raw meat in it, basically. It thickens it a little bit and gets all the flavors going. And then I'm going to take this little KitchenAid gadget and I'm going to blend and puree like a little bit of it. It's fine to still have some chunks. I think it's nice to have that rustic look, but I want some of the kumquats to sort of be blended. They're a little chunky right now. So I'll cook this down. I'm going to heat it for about probably 10 minutes so that we can cook the garlic in there, get a lot of the flavors going, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how I puree this. And like I said, I just want to try to blend a little bit of the chunks in there. And I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have used these before, this KitchenAid. It's just great for pureeing soups and emulsifying things like right in the pan. All right, so we're warming up our grill. Okay, so we're flipping the first time.
So you want three different sides,
Yep,
honey?
so that'll be good, and then we flip it for more on that side.
Man, keep it away from that big hot flame here.
Put our thermometer in. We want it to be about 140. That's perfect. So we're going to take this off. We flipped it 3 times, 5 minutes on each side. So a total of about 15-20 minutes. Again, the bigger
More
the
like 5, 4, and 3.5.
Okay. So the bigger the pork tenderloin, the longer that you want, and the longer you want it to be cooked, you can have it to 150 and keep it on longer. So now we're going to throw on these broccolini, and they're not going to take long at all. So just put them on. And like I said, I put a little olive oil, salt, and pepper, and then I actually put a little lemon juice on there, and we'll just let them char for really 5 to 6 minutes. I don't want them to be super overdone, but we'll come back. It's really only been about 5 minutes already, so it's only going to be on there for a couple more. And then we'll toss a little bit more lemon juice on the end, plate it, and then we're good to go. Okay, so we've taken it all off, and now I'm just going to put it all together. So I'm going to take a little lemon juice and squeeze that right over the grilled broccoli, and then just a little bit of salt. We already peppered it before, but just a tiny bit of salt there. And then I'm gonna slice this this pork. So we let it rest for about 5 to 7 minutes. You want all the juices to sit before you cut it. And then you're just gonna get a nice sharp knife, and you're gonna slice it against the grain like that. Oh my gosh. And it has this, like, because of the sugars from the marinade, it's like caramelized on the outside a little bit. It's so good. I'm excited about this. So, and it's okay for your pork to be a little pink like that. Like we like ours, that was 140. If you like a little bit more well done, then cook it to 150. But we like stuff. If you can eat it, the rarer, the better. Is that a word? The more rare it is. So, so I'm just gonna cut those pieces. It's just gonna be the 2 of us tonight. And then the sauce, if you can see what I did after I pureed it with the little blender, I added a little water just to kind of thin it out because it's a little thick. And then now we're just gonna put that on top of this pork. So I have the couscous. I'm gonna do a little plate of that. And I need a fork, sorry. Some of this broccolini, nice. And then this pork tenderloin. It feels very like I'm in the mountains, very rustic right now. So, and then just top it a little bit with that sauce. You don't want a lot because the pork itself has a lot of flavor, but just a little bit so you can taste those earthy flavors, the sweetness from the kumquats. There you go. So that's it. So I'm excited. I'm glad you guys stuck around to see how we put this together, and hopefully it's as easy for you guys.